Song of Horror is a third-person game akin to classic survival horror games of the past. These classic survival horror games made me feel hopeless and anxious enough to scare the living hell out of me on multiple playthroughs. Does Song of Horror have the potential to stand next to these monumental classics? Stay tuned to find out as we dive into the Song of Horror. My first introduction to this game was through Markiplier, who played the early demo back in 2015. I remember wanting a PC so badly just to play this game. In fact, looking back, I mainly wanted a computer to play all sorts of indie horror games not available on console. Luckily, players won't have this issue as Protocol Games, the developers, announced console ports releasing sometime this year. The initial selling point of the series was the permadeath, meaning that once the character you're playing as dies, that's it. They'll never be playable again, which was definitely a hook when I first purchased this game back in late 2019. However, they've added an easier difficulty for those who want to enjoy the story without the anxiety of having to worry about every single choice they make. I highly advise against playing without permadeath as it adds tons of pressure to the horror. You play as Daniel Neuer, the typical divorced down on his luck ex-alcoholic who is sent by his boss to look for a man who's been missing for the past 3 days. Upon reaching the house, Daniel quickly gets engulfed by the Song of Horror and goes missing.
When I turned around, the door wasn't there anymore, and all that was left of it was a strange shadow on the wall.
3 days later, the search for Daniel begins. The cutscene makes it seem like Sophie, Daniel's ex-wife, is going to be the protagonist of the chapter, which is an option, but if you play with permadeath enabled, you'd most likely choose to play as a lesser-known character, which is a prime example of ludonarrative dissonance. You have the option to play as a few characters who have differing stats. I never noticed any of these stats affect gameplay, nor does the game require certain characters to progress. The main difference is whether they use a flashlight or candle as a light source, and the dialogue boxes when examining the environment. Be aware that once you choose a character, you can't go back and change who you play as. You have to die in order to pick someone else. Examining every nook and cranny and solving puzzles is the heart and soul of this game, and most other survival horror games. But what about the risk of death? In Song of Horror, there are no active enemies lurking around. Instead, you explore until you get jump scared, hide in a closet or under a desk, and play Dance Dance Revolution. You also have to be careful opening doors by putting your ear up against the door and checking if it's safe, which can be scary for the first couple of times, but after a while it becomes mundane and just another roadblock to increase the game's length. The game's environment is very creepy and lifelike, which helps earn many jump scares. Even if you're susceptible to jump scares like I am, you should be able to get by and play the game as intended. I did get stuck a couple of times, but as long as you pay attention to the environment and read all the notes scattered around, you can get through this game without a walkthrough. It took me 2 hours and 30 minutes to beat Chapter 1 of Song of Horror. I would recommend this game for fans of classic survival horror games. There are many elements I missed from past horror games that this game seemed to scratch. Song of Horror comes very close to standing next to survival horror games of the past, but misses the mark by very little. My review of Chapter 2 will be more in depth and contains spoilers, so I hope I can sell you on this game from this brief review. As always, please like and subscribe for more reviews. I do intend to finish all 5 chapters into reviews on them. Please catch me on twitch.tv/Corpsi_TV. That's where I'm going to be streaming chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. And yeah, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.